This Indian manufacturer called Parkash has built some crazy stuff. Water slides, thrill rides and much more at 33 parks around Asia and the Middle East. But one of their rides is much crazier than anything else in their catalogue. And it's a unique, sketchy and insane looking roller coaster. So let's talk about the Parkash Freefall Loop Coaster, one of the craziest roller coaster models in the world. Welcome to my new mini-series, where we will take a quick look at some of the world's craziest and most unique roller coasters that you might not have known about. Today's installment is a now extinct roller coaster called the Parkash Freefall Loop. It was installed at 2 parks in India and Nepal and, well, just look at it. The manufacturer is an Indian company called Parkash Amusements. They're a company that the chairman describes as an innovator in the field of amusement for the last 30 years. They also engage business in practices and think that children are more involved in phones and tabs rather physical activities. PAFL is a dream project for the dreamers like me. This is gold. Judging by that statement and that their website features a picture of Banshee at Kings Island, you've probably already gathered that Parkash is just one of those manufacturers. But once you look at their ride catalogue, there's actually not that much that's very surprising. Their kiddie rides are supposed to gleam the days of your kids. Please don't do that to my kids. But they basically just feature your general selection of fairly basic playground equipment and small kids rides. Their thrill rides page, time to be a little loud and alluring, lists ride names that probably sound pretty familiar. It seems they have their own version of a disco, a breakdance, an octopus, and other such flat rides. There's nothing really unusual here, except for the freefall. Only 2 of these rides were ever built. The first operated at Kathmandu Fun Park under an unknown name from around 2004. It stood 21 meters tall and basically features a shuttle layout with a single vertical loop. Nothing too fancy, except for the fact that it's human-powered. RCDB states this shuttle loop does not use an electric motor to lift the car up the hill. It is lifted up the hill by human power. This was done at Kathmandu Fun Park's request in order to minimize operating costs of the ride. The train was lifted to the top of one of the spikes by using a hand-operated pulley system. It would then be released and coast through the shuttle layout. However, this was apparently incredibly inefficient due to the amount of effort required for the operator to continually crank the pulley and lift the train to the top of the spike. As a result, the coaster operated inconsistently and was scrapped sometime around 2010, surely never to be cloned, right? Right? Well, actually, Parkash did build one more freefall loop. However, this one learned from its predecessor's mistake and installed an electric-powered lift motor. The clone, known as Loop Roller Coaster at India's Silverstorm Water Theme Park, opened in 2011, with parts being manufactured by hand in the Indian state of Gujarat. Prominent enthusiast Richard Bannister rode Loop Roller Coaster in 2014 and wrote about the experience. To describe the appearance of Loop Roller Coaster as terrifying does an injustice to the word. The release and initial drop were fine, giving a nice pop of airtime and a brief feeling of relief. However, as the car rolled backwards through the station, it was flung sideways with violence, throwing me into the nearest sharp object, what I believe to have been an exposed bolt on the back left of the headrest. Even more amusingly, he added, "The station has a braking mechanism to slow the car, but it wasn't functional for my visit, and thus the car rolled back and forth for at least a minute, shaking and shuddering as it went before it had finally lost enough energy to allow the operators to stop it by hand."
Name something you might hurt yourself riding on.
Oh, Lord. You know what I'm thinking?
The Loop roller coaster at Silverstorm Water Theme Park.
However, it appears that efficiency and unreliability, and perhaps as Richard Bannister suggests, issues with the brakes, were still issues, as the ride lasted only until 2016 before being dismantled and scrapped, officially making the Parkash Freefall Loop an extinct ride model. Parkash no longer offer the ride on their website, although there are mentions of it, and in fact have apparently entered a deal with Chinese manufacturer Jinmar Rides and American manufacturer Dream Park to offer an expanded ride catalogue for Indian parks, including Jinmar's spinning coaster model and several large-scale flat rides. So while the knockoff coasters continue from Parkash, we are unlikely to ever see another one of these strange contraptions built. Would you have ridden this strange ride? And would you have preferred to try the human-powered Nepalese version or the electric Indian version? Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.